I'm glad you actually went political with that, Dirk, because you set me up perfectly.
Oh my gosh.
For right here, for my off script that I have for you right now, because I wanted to jump off of what you wrote again.
You're going to jump off?
You may jump off when you hear this, because it relates to your op-ed, but again, in a political way. So economically, for many companies, 2017 has been a pretty good year. Been a really good year for a lot of people. Stock market's up, inflation is neutral or down. Sales and profits are doing great, really, really well for a lot of companies. And yet, personally, many people who are reaping the benefits of that, and maybe will get a tax break as well, will really reap the benefits of it personally, they may be politically opposed to some of what's going on, some of what's made that happen. So my question to you is this.
Funny.
It's interesting. My question to you is this. When you say in your op-ed that it's great that we all can look in the same direction and see the same thing, does that mean you have to sacrifice to a certain extent your beliefs? I mean, what I mean by that is, as business people, should we check our political beliefs at the door and embrace the bounties, maybe, that the administration is bringing us for our companies and for ourselves too? Do you think that's fair?
I think we do. I think it's funny you mentioned this. Not too long ago, my wife and I, who are both Democrats, and she's really liberal, I'm just kind of maybe a little left of center, we're talking to our financial planner. Because we're getting close to that retirement age, and I'm joking with the financial planner, and we're going, well, neither one of us are real fans of Trump, but this is going to be awesome.
But yay IRA.
I mean, you do. I mean, you end up in that conflict because in the end, we all care about our pocketbooks, and so you may not like whoever happens to be in office, but if whoever's in office is doing something that has a positive effect on you, you kind of go with it.
And how about for your companies? I mean,
and I think for the companies think the same thing.
Yeah, or even more.
I think many companies do. I mean, you can't tell me that those people who left the manufacturing council that was set up recently out of protest to Trump, that at the same time they're kind of going, yeah, I do hope we get some tax breaks.
Right, of course.
Of course they are.
Of course they do. Well, I mean, it's a complicated thing, because when you're in a large industry and you're in a company that maybe is a large player in a large industry, you're in many ways embedded with the government. I mean, you want the government to succeed so you can succeed.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, well, I've got a minute, so. You cannot answer this if you want. This is controversial. I'm going to be really careful how I phrase this.
All right.
But I'm a history guy.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So in the 1930s and the 1940s, German manufacturers were a major part of world manufacturing, and they were a major part of the world economy. The success of the German economy in the 30s and in the 40s, until the war really started biting hard and changed it, in the war, of course, and then they lost the war at the end, it really changed it, was incredibly successful, unbelievably successful, the most powerful economy in Europe by far. Many of those people knew exactly what that government was doing. And now I want to be really careful. I'm not drawing an analogy between the German government in the 30s and 40s and the government we have now.
Right.
I'm just making an analogy that many of those industrialists knew what was going on and knew it wasn't right, knew that they weren't supporters of the government, but they profited handsomely from it.
Right.
Should they have pushed back? Should they have not accepted that? I mean, it's a challenging analogy, I know, but it's a fair question to ask, I think.
I think it depends on what it would be they're pushing back on. In that case, I mean, obviously we're looking at it, decades on, so we can look back and say, well, yeah, it was genocide. You're going to push back on genocide?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
But they didn't. But
I would say, yeah, they should have. Now, if you look at the stuff.
Some did. I shouldn't say no did.
Yeah, some did. But I think the pushback is, what are you pushing back against? If you're pushing back against something like genocide, then yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't care what my company's going to do. This is obviously wrong. I mean, this is really wrong. We should be doing something. We should be pushing back. If it's as you start to get further and further away from these really far out things, then I think it becomes a little, well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. You know, if you're against the Secretary of the Interior diminishing the borders of national monuments, do you push back as a company? Well, is it a big deal? Well, it depends on your perspective.
Also depends on your customers.
And it
what
depends
your
on your customers.
Some of this is marketing.
But it's a different. Now it gets more nuanced because you're not talking about genocide. You're talking about, you know, a national monument. So they're going to be taking more, you know, stuff out of the ground, or they're going to be, you know, isolating, you know, endangered species from their habitat or something, right?
Right.
Now it becomes a little bit more. It's not as, for lack of a better word, not as critical. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I know.
But it's not the same thing, right? So in that case, I go, you know, it's up to the company and their customers. It's a different thing.
But it's an interesting
It's an
thought
interesting
experiment
thought. No,
because,
I know
because
you're-
it's a
I know where you're
spectrum
going.
and it's a slippery slope on that spectrum too, where you say, well, I'll accept that. All right, well, what do you accept? I mean, are you a frog in the water where that water's getting turned up slowly? I mean,
how far before you can't back out?
Yeah, before you have to jump out of that water. I don't know the answer either. I'm throwing that at you because I'm curious.
Which
about
may
your
have been,
thoughts.
by the way, that was kind of the what commentators were saying about the folks who left the manufacturing councils is they're looking, okay, I've got customers, and if I stay in this too long, maybe we've been at too long already, maybe it's time to kind of get out of it, because it may be to a point where we're in there too long and the damage to our company is done. And we don't want to be with that frog and staying in too long, and then now we can't get out of it.
Yeah, and you also have to balance out the people that maybe do support a lot of what the administration is doing. It's 35% or so of the customer base for many.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And it's like, well, we don't want to offend them either. So it's a really complicated little, like say, nuance is a perfect word you used, because that's really what it is. Dirk, good job with that off script, man. I hope that wasn't too controversial, but I wanted to explore that with you. So thanks for doing that.